The training facility on Kepler Station buzzed with activity as soldiers from 12 different species ran through their daily combat drills. The massive hangar had been converted into a multi-environment training ground, with sections mimicking everything from zero-gravity asteroid fields to the dense jungles of Verdania Prime. Squad 7 had been assigned to the urban combat section today. A maze of metal corridors and platforms designed to test close-quarters fighting skills. Zareth moved like liquid shadow through the training course, her forearms flowing in perfect harmony as she dispatched holographic enemies with deadly precision. The Cathani ninja had earned her reputation through blood and victory across 17 war zones. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their martial prowess, but even among the Cathani, Zareth stood apart. Her movements were poetry written in violence, each strike calculated to maximum efficiency. The other squad members watched in respectful silence as she completed the course in record time. Lieutenant Vexstar, their squad leader and a decorated Zephyrian warrior, nodded approvingly. The six-armed insectoid officer had seen many skilled fighters in his 40-year military career, but Zareth impressed even him. "Excellent work, Sergeant Zareth," Vexstar clicked in the common tongue, his mandibles clicking with approval. "Your infiltration technique on level 3 was flawless. The way you eliminated those targets without triggering the alarm system shows why the Cathani are feared across the Outer Rim." Zareth bowed gracefully, her sleek black combat suit gleaming under the artificial lights. Her elongated skull housed a brain capable of processing combat scenarios faster than most military computers. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Though I must say that course was designed for lesser species. A true challenge would push my limits further." The comment wasn't meant as arrogance, simply fact. Throughout galactic military history, no species had proven superior to the Cathani in single combat. Their reflexes, honed over millions of years of evolution on a world where everything tried to kill everything else, were unmatched. Their forearms allowed for weapon combinations that other species couldn't even attempt. Most importantly, their neural pathways were optimized for combat prediction, allowing them to anticipate enemy movements before they happened. "Perhaps we could arrange something more challenging," came a quiet voice from the back of the group. All heads turned toward the speaker. Marcus Chen sat on a supply crate, cleaning his sidearm with methodical precision. The human looked unremarkable among the gathered soldiers. Average height for his species, lean build, dark hair cropped in standard military fashion. His equipment was standard issue, nothing modified or enhanced. Among beings who stood 8 feet tall with natural armor plating or possessed multiple limbs and enhanced reflexes, Marcus seemed almost fragile. Zareth's 4 eyes focused on him with mild interest. Humans were relatively new to galactic society, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago. Their integration into galactic military forces was still experimental. Most served in support roles or as technical specialists. Few were assigned to frontline combat units, and those who were typically struggled to keep up with the physical demands required by more evolved species. "You have something in mind, Corporal Chun?" Vexstar asked, his tone neutral but curious. Marcus finished cleaning his weapon and holstered it with practiced ease. "Just thinking that maybe Sergeant Zareth would benefit from sparring against someone whose fighting style isn't in the military databases." A ripple of amusement passed through the squad. Trooper Gorth, a massive Krelion whose species specialized in heavy assault operations, let out a rumbling chuckle. "No offense, human, but you'd last about 3 seconds against a Cathani warrior. Their reaction time is faster than your nervous system can even process danger." Marcus shrugged, apparently unconcerned. "Maybe, but the sergeant did say she wanted a challenge." Zia Artates studied the human with renewed interest. There was something about his posture, the way he held himself, that suggested hidden depths. But her species' pride wouldn't allow her to back down from what was clearly a challenge, even from someone so obviously outmatched. "Very well," she said, rising gracefully to her feet. "But I warn you, human, I've been holding back during training exercises. If you wish to spar seriously, I will not be responsible for your injuries." "Understood," Marcus replied. Standing and moving to the center of the training mat, the other squad members formed a circle around them, eager to watch what would surely be a brief but educational demonstration. Lieutenant Vexstar checked his chronometer, already planning the paperwork. He'd need to file when the human ended up in the medical bay. Zareth removed her equipment harness, standing in just her form-fitting combat suit. Without weapons, her forearms would be even more dangerous, able to attack from multiple angles simultaneously while maintaining perfect defensive positioning. She'd once killed 6 armed opponents in hand-to-hand combat without taking a single hit. Marcus removed his jacket and gear, revealing the lean muscle underneath. Compared to Zareth's predatory grace, he looked almost casual, like someone preparing for morning exercise rather than combat against one of the galaxy's most deadly warriors. "Standard sparring rules," Vexstar announced. "Match ends with submission, knockout, or when I call stop. No permanent damage intended?" Zareth dropped into her fighting stance, all 4 arms positioned for optimal attack and defense patterns. Her legs, longer and more powerful than human limbs, coiled like springs ready to launch her in any direction. Every muscle in her body was primed for explosive action. Marcus simply stood there, hands at his sides, looking relaxed. Almost bored. "You may begin when ready," Vexstar called. Zareth didn't hesitate. She launched herself forward with lightning speed, her 4 arms weaving a pattern of strikes designed to overwhelm any opponent. The combination was one she'd perfected over years of combat. A series of attacks that created multiple threat vectors simultaneously. While setting up a finishing move, her upper right fist shot toward Marcus's jaw while her lower left aimed for his solar plexus. Her remaining arms prepared to counter whatever defensive move he attempted. The attack was poetry in motion, a masterpiece of martial skill that had ended dozens of real fights in her favor. Marcus didn't dodge. He didn't block. He didn't even seem to move. One moment Zareth was executing a perfect 4-limb assault combination. The next moment she was on her back, staring at the ceiling, her head spinning and her body refusing to obey her commands. The transition had been so fast, so smooth, that her enhanced combat reflexes hadn't even registered what happened. The training facility fell silent except for the hum of the ventilation system. Zareth blinked, trying to process what had occurred. Her 4 eyes focused on Marcus, who stood exactly where he'd been when the match started, looking down at her with the same calm expression. His hands were back at his sides as if nothing had happened. "What ... she began, then stopped. Her throat felt tight, and she realized Marcus's hand had made contact with a very specific nerve cluster. The strike had been precise enough to temporarily disrupt her nervous system without causing permanent damage. 3 seconds! Trooper Gorth's voice broke the silence, his tone filled with disbelief. She was down in 3 seconds. Lieutenant Vexstar checked his chronometer twice, certain it was malfunctioning. The entire exchange had lasted less time than it took most beings to blink. He'd been watching carefully, his own combat-trained eyes following the action. But even he couldn't say exactly what Marcus had done. Zareth sat up slowly, her coordination returning as the nerve disruption faded. She stared at Marcus with a mixture of confusion and respect that she'd never felt toward another warrior. In all her years of training in combat, no one had ever moved faster than her enhanced reflexes could track. "How?" she asked simply. Marcus extended a hand to help her up, which she accepted after a moment's hesitation. "Different training methods," he said. "Different world, different threats?" "But the databases," Gorth stammered. "Human reaction times are documented. Your species' physical capabilities are well known. This shouldn't be possible." Marcus brushed an imaginary speck of dust from his uniform. "Databases only tell you what someone wanted you to know," he said quietly. "Or what they thought they knew?" Zareth stood, testing her balance and finding it restored. The strike had been perfect, surgical in its precision. It had neutralized her completely without causing injury, a level of skill that spoke to years of specialized training. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "Earth," Marcus replied. "Old traditions." "Very old." Lieutenant Vexstar moved closer, his 6 arms crossed in contemplation. "Corporal Chun, your personnel file lists you as a technical specialist?" communications and intelligence gathering. There's no mention of advanced combat training. Marcus met the officer's compound eyes steadily. Sometimes the most important qualifications aren't the ones that make it into official files, sir. The implication hung in the air like smoke from a weapon discharge. Around the galaxy, military intelligence services were known for their compartmentalized operations and hidden assets. Soldiers with publicly documented skills might have entirely different capabilities known only to their handlers, but this went beyond normal special opera. Lieutenant Vextar's office felt smaller than usual as he reviewed the classified files displayed on his secure terminal. The morning light from Kepler Station's artificial sun streamed through the viewport, casting angular shadows across the room. He'd been reading for 2 hours, and each page made yesterday's training incident seem less like an anomaly and more like a carefully orchestrated revelation. Marcus Tune's service record was a masterpiece of misdirection. On the surface, everything appeared routine: technical specialist training on Luna Base, communications certification from the Mars Academy, deployment history that focused on support roles and intelligence gathering. But buried within the classified sections were details that painted a very different picture. The door chimed, and Marcus entered precisely at 0800, his uniform immaculate and his bearing professional. He saluted crisply, then stood at attention, waiting. "At ease, Corporal," Vextar said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Please sit." Marcus settled into the chair with the same controlled movement he'd displayed in combat. Everything about him seemed measured, deliberate, as if every action was calculated for maximum efficiency. "I've been reading your file," Vextar began, his compound eyes fixed on the human. "The complete version." "It makes for interesting reading." "I'm sure it does, sir." Terra Special Operations Command, Phase 7 Augmentation Program. Classified. Deployment to the Helix Nebula during the Syndicate Uprising. Vextar leaned back in his chair. "Your official record lists you as a communications specialist, but your actual training includes advanced infiltration, assassination techniques, and something called adaptive combat methodology." Marcus remained silent, his expression neutral. "According to these files, you've been embedded in regular military units for the past 3 years, ostensibly as part of a technology transfer program. But the real purpose was intelligence gathering, wasn't it? Assessing how humans would perform integrated with alien military forces." "I follow orders, sir. The details of my assignment parameters are above your clearance level." Vextar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Actually, as of this morning, they're not. I've been read into several programs I didn't know existed yesterday." He turned his terminal screen toward Marcus. "Would you care to explain what Ghost Protocol means?" For the first time, Marcus showed a reaction. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and his hands, resting on his knees, flexed briefly before returning to their relaxed position. "That's not a program I'm familiar with, sir." "No, because according to this, Ghost Protocol is designed to embed human operatives in alien military units to study weaknesses and assess tactical capabilities. The program was initiated shortly after humanity joined the Galactic Defense Force, based on concerns that our allies might not have humanity's best interests at heart." Marcus met the lieutenant's gaze steadily. "Sir, if such a program existed, discussing it would violate operational security." "Even with your commanding officer?" "Especially with my commanding officer, sir. No offense intended." Vextar studied the human for a long moment. The implications were staggering. If Ghost Protocol was real, it meant that humanity had been conducting intelligence operations against their allies for years. More concerning was what it suggested about human capabilities. "You didn't embed operatives unless you believed they could operate undetected," which meant Marcus's performance yesterday wasn't an aberration. "Tell me about Earth," Vextar said, changing tactics. "Not the official version. What's it really like?" Marcus was quiet for several seconds, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. "Earth is a death world, sir. It always has been. The Galactic classification lists Earth as a standard Class M world, suitable for most carbon-based life forms. The classification is wrong." Marcus leaned forward slightly. Sir, do you know how many species on Earth are actively trying to kill humans at any given moment? Vexstar checked his database. According to the surveys, most Earth fauna is relatively harmless to sentient beings. The surveys missed a few things. There are approximately 150,000 species on Earth that can kill an adult human. Everything from microscopic bacteria to apex predators that can tear through metal. We have spiders whose venom can liquefy tissue, snakes that can kill with a single bite, and insects that carry diseases capable of wiping out entire populations. The lieutenant's mandibles stopped clicking. Our weather tries to kill us, Marcus continued. Hurricanes with winds that can level cities, tornadoes that can pick up buildings and throw them. We have earthquakes that can split continents and volcanoes that can change global climate patterns. Our planet's surface is 70% covered by water deep enough to crush most beings, and even that water is full of creatures that see humans as food. But humans survived and thrived. We didn't just survive, sir, we adapted. Every human child grows up learning to assess threats, to move quietly, to fight when necessary. It's not something we train for, it's something we're born with. Situational. Awareness isn't a military skill for humans, it's a survival requirement. Vexstar was beginning to understand. The combat techniques you demonstrated yesterday are basic survival skills where I grew up. My grandmother taught them to me when I was 8 years old, the same way she taught me to read and write. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Vexstar checked his terminal and felt his primary heart skip a beat. Report to the command center immediately, Corporal. We have a situation. The command center was buzzing with activity when they arrived. Admiral Vexlan, the station commander, stood before a massive holographic display showing the local star system. Red warning indicators flashed at multiple points along the outer perimeter. Ah, Lieutenant Vexstar, the Admiral's voice rumbled through his breathing apparatus. I understand you have a specialist who might be useful in our current predicament. What's the situation, sir? Vexstar asked. Pirate attack on mining convoy Epsilon 7. 3 ships, heavily armed, moving toward the asteroid belt where they can use the debris field for cover. Our standard pursuit vessels won't be able to follow them into that maze without significant risk of collision. The holographic display zoomed in on the asteroid field, showing millions of chunks of rock and metal drifting in complex orbital patterns. It was a navigator's nightmare, requiring constant course corrections and split-second timing to avoid catastrophic impacts. Sir, Marcus spoke up, what kind of ships are we dealing with? Admiral Vexlan gestured to the display, which shifted to show 3 sleek vessels armed with military-grade weapons, modified Harbinger-class raiders, fast, heavily shielded, and equipped with advanced jamming systems. They've been hitting convoys throughout this sector for the past 6 months. Have we tried sending fighters after them? Twice, both times our pilots lost track of them in the asteroid field. The debris interferes with our targeting systems and navigation computers. Marcus studied the display intently. What about smaller ships? Single-pilot reconnaissance craft? Too dangerous. The asteroids are moving too fast and in too random patterns. No pilot could navigate that field without computer assistance, and the jamming makes our computers unreliable. Unless the pilot didn't need computer assistance. Every head in the command center turned toward Marcus. Admiral Vexlan's massive frame leaned forward. Explain. Human pilots train differently, sir. We learn to fly by instinct and visual reference first, computer second. It's a holdover from our atmospheric flight training, where weather and combat damage could knock out electronic systems. You're suggesting a human pilot could navigate that field manually? I'm suggesting a human pilot might have advantages that standard tactical doctrine doesn't account for. The Admiral's breathing apparatus cycled thoughtfully. And I suppose you happen to be qualified as a pilot? Advanced reconnaissance and infiltration, sir. Part of my technical specialist training. Vexstar looked at Marcus with new understanding. Every piece of his cover story served multiple purposes, providing legitimate reasons for skills that were actually far more specialized. The risks are significant, Admiral Vexlan warned. If you're wrong about human capabilities, you'll be vaporized against an asteroid before you can even engage the enemy. Understood, sir. Within an hour, Marcus was strapped into the cockpit of a Wraith-class reconnaissance craft, its sleek hull barely 20 meters long. The ship was designed for stealth and speed, not combat, but it was small enough to maneuver through spaces that would be impossible for larger vessels. As he ran through the pre-flight checklist, Zareth appeared at his cockpit window. She pressed her hand against the transparent aluminum, her 4 eyes bright with concern. "Human," she called through the comm system. "Are you certain about this?" Marcus looked up from his controls. "Nothing certain, Sergeant. But yesterday you learned something about human capabilities. Today, maybe the galaxy will learn something too. Be careful. I would like the opportunity to spar with you again when you return." Looking forward to it. The launch bay doors opened, revealing the vast star field beyond. In the distance, the asteroid belt looked like a wall of moving chaos. Millions of objects tumbling through space in patterns that seemed to defy prediction. Marcus engaged the engines. Marcus dove through the asteroid field like a predator that had found its natural hunting ground. The 3 pirate vessels hung in formation around the captured convoy ships. Their crews focused on stripping valuable cargo while their sensors swept the approaches for incoming threats. Their confidence was understandable. No sane pilot would attempt to navigate this maze of spinning rock and metal, but sanity was a luxury. Earth had never afforded its children the lead pirate ship, a modified Harbinger-class raider bristling with weapon pods, detected his approach when he was still 3 kilometers out. Immediately, all 3 vessels began evasive maneuvers, their pilots expertly using the larger asteroids as cover while bringing their weapons to bear. Marcus didn't try to avoid their targeting sensors. Instead, he accelerated directly toward them, weaving between asteroids with movements that seemed impossible for a craft moving at such speed. His small reconnaissance ship darted through gaps barely wide enough for its hull, using gravitational slings from the larger rocks to change direction without slowing down. The first pirate opened fire, energy beams slicing through space where Marcus had been microseconds earlier. But the human pilot wasn't where their computers predicted he would be. He was riding the gravitational wake of a tumbling asteroid, using its mass to mask his energy signature while positioning himself for an attack run. In the command center on Kepler Station, Admiral Vexlon watched the engagement through long-range sensors with growing disbelief. How is he moving like that? Our computers can't even track his flight path. Lieutenant Vexstar studied the tactical display with his 6 arms crossed in contemplation. "I don't think he's following a flight path, sir. I think he's improvising in real time." "That's impossible. No organic brain can calculate 3-dimensional navigation through a debris field at those speeds." "No alien brain," Vexstar corrected quietly on the screen. Marcus's ship suddenly appeared from behind a massive asteroid, diving toward the second pirate vessel at an angle that should have resulted in immediate collision with the debris field. Instead, he skimmed along the surface of a spinning chunk of metal, using its rotation to add velocity to his approach while staying below the enemy's firing arc. The pirate ship's weapons tracked frantically, trying to establish a firing solution on a target that moved like it was alive. Their computer systems, designed to predict logical flight patterns, couldn't adapt to Marcus's seemingly chaotic movements. Every time they thought they had him locked, he would slip away using some aspect of the asteroid field that their tactical programs hadn't considered. Marcus's voice crackled through the static-filled communication channel. "Control, Wraith 7, beginning unconventional engagement." "Define unconventional," Admiral Vexlon responded, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. "Human unconventional." "Sir, instead of firing his weapons at the enemy ships?" Marcus targeted a massive asteroid that was drifting slowly toward the pirate formation. His precision laser burst struck specific points along stress fractures in the rock, causing it to break apart in exactly the pattern he needed. The result was spectacular. The asteroid shattered into dozens of large fragments, each following a slightly different trajectory, but all converging on the space where the pirates had taken cover. What had been a defensive position suddenly became a death trap as chunks of rock the size of shuttlecraft hurtled toward them at tremendous speed. The lead pirate ship tried to accelerate out of the impact zone, but Marcus had anticipated the move. He'd already positioned himself to intercept, appearing from behind another asteroid with perfect timing to rake the enemy vessel's engines with laser fire. The ship lurched, its acceleration cut in half, and then disappeared in a brilliant flash as it collided with one of the asteroid fragments. The second pirate vessel managed to clear the debris storm, but its pilot made the mistake of trying to engage Marcus in open combat. The raider had superior weapons and shielding, advantages that should have made the outcome inevitable. But Marcus didn't fight like a conventional pilot. He used the asteroids as both shields and weapons, staying in constant motion while herding his opponent toward increasingly dangerous areas of the field. When the pirate ship finally achieved missile lock and fired, Marcus was ready. He dove behind a spinning chunk of nickel iron ore, letting the asteroid absorb the impact, then emerged from the explosion, using the blast's energy to accelerate toward his target. The engagement lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, all 3 pirate vessels had been destroyed, and the convoy ships were safe. Marcus's reconnaissance craft emerged from the asteroid field with minor hull scarring and depleted energy reserves, but otherwise intact as he docked with Kepler Station. Crowds of alien military personnel gathered in the landing bay to witness his return. Word of the engagement had spread throughout the station, carried by personnel who had watched the battle on sensors and couldn't believe what they were seeing. Admiral Dexlon was waiting when Marcus climbed out of his cockpit. The massive alien's breathing apparatus cycled rapidly as he studied the human with new eyes. "Corporal Chun," he said formally. "That was the most irregular combat engagement I've witnessed in 30 years of military service. I apologize if I violated any tactical doctrines." "Sir, you didn't violate them," the Admiral replied. "You completely ignored them. And in doing so, you achieved victory against odds that our computers rated as impossible." Zareth pushed through the crowd, her 4 eyes bright with excitement and respect. "Human, you must teach me how you move through those asteroids. No warrior should possess such abilities." "It's not about abilities," Marcus said, beginning to remove his flight gear. "It's about perspective. You see the asteroid field as an obstacle because your instincts tell you to avoid collision. Humans see it as terrain that can be used tactically." Lieutenant Vexstar approached, carrying a secure communication device. "Corporal, you have a priority message from Terra Command." Marcus accepted the device and activated the encryption protocols. The holographic image that appeared was of a stern-faced woman in the uniform of a Terran admiral. "Corporal Chun," she said, without preamble, "your recent activities have attracted significant attention. Ghost protocol has been compromised." "Understood, ma'am." "Orders? New phase of operations?" "The masquerade is no longer sustainable or necessary. As of today, humanity is transitioning from covert assessment to open integration. You are hereby promoted to Major and assigned as Special Advisor to Admiral Vexlon for Integrated Human-Alien Tactical Development." The message ended, leaving Marcus staring at the device. Around him, the implications began to sink in for the assembled crowd. "You're not just a technical specialist," Admiral Vexlon said slowly. "None of you are you?" Marcus looked up at the massive alien commander. "No, sir, we're advanced scouts. Humanity wanted to understand how we'd fit into galactic society before we revealed our full capabilities. And your assessment?" "That our differences might be more valuable as assets than liabilities." Over the following days, the truth about humanity's integration program became known throughout the galactic military. The revelation caused shock waves that rippled through command structures across dozens of worlds. Every alien military leader began reviewing their human personnel with new eyes, wondering what capabilities they had overlooked, but the changes went beyond military applications. Humanity's approach to problem-solving, their ability to thrive in chaotic environments, and their talent for unconventional thinking began to be recognized as valuable assets in fields ranging from exploration to diplomacy. Zareth had requested daily training sessions with Marcus. eager to learn human combat techniques. But what she discovered was that it wasn't about specific moves or tactics. It was about a fundamentally different way of thinking about conflict and survival. "Your species fascinates me," she said during one of their sparring sessions. "You seem weak compared to most galactic races, yet you consistently find ways to overcome superior opponents." Marcus helped her up after another demonstration of human grappling techniques. "We had to. Earth gave us two choices, adapt or die. So we learned to turn everything into a weapon, every environment into an ally, even here among the stars. Especially here. Space is just another hostile environment. We've been preparing for it our whole lives without knowing it." The broader implications were becoming clear to military strategists throughout the galaxy. Humanity's integration into galactic society wasn't just about adding another species to the Alliance. It was about introducing an entirely new approach to warfare, exploration, and survival that could benefit everyone. Admiral Vexlon had requested Marcus's input on several ongoing military problems that had stumped conventional thinking. In each case, the human solutions involved approaches that alien military doctrine considered either impossible or inadvisable. "Your species thinks differently," the Admiral observed during one of their planning sessions. "You see opportunities where we see obstacles." "Maybe," Marcus agreed. "Or maybe we just grew up on a world where obstacles and opportunities were the same thing." The pirate incident had become required study material at military academies across several worlds. The engagement demonstrated tactics that challenged fundamental assumptions.